gonna let him.
Okay, so we are recording. I am expecting a couple more people, but they should be showing up any minute. So by the time they get here, we'll probably be getting into the meat of it. So I want to respect everybody's time, so I want to get started. So first of all, thank you everybody for coming. And in case you don't know why you're here, Millionaire Real Estate Investor is what we're talking about. And in the back of the room, we got Anna Rotolo. She's our finance person. She's going to be talking about finance a little bit later. So our goal is to get through this material in about an hour and give you back your day. This is the legal and copyright stuff. There's going to be a test later, so pay close attention. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, everybody knows me already, so we'll just bypass that. So the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, well, first of all, let me ask you this. Let me go around the room, and what do you hope to get out of today's workshop? Pastor Steve?
Information.
Okay.
That's good.
Dean Jeremiah? Same thing? Anybody else?
Just
Free money.
get used to the lingos and certain procedures. I know I won't remember everything,
Okay,
but at least I'll get some idea of how things are done,
perfect.
so
Sounds,
it'll be good.
okay. Jane, anything?
Nothing, no idea. Just
No idea? Just open to
Yeah.
whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the material's based on the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. That's kind of a mouthful, so we just say MREI for short. Hello, welcome, come on in. Have a seat.
You sit with us.
Yeah, have a seat right here. We saved the spot for you.
$40.
Would you like anything, water, cookies? You sure? Okay. Okay, so the book was written by, it was based on, they actually interviewed 120 actual millionaire real estate investors when they did the research on this book. The main writer was Gary Keller. He's the CEO and founder of Keller Williams Realty, the brokerage that I work for. His net worth in 2021 was $200 million. He's got 120 agents in his offices, 700 offices worldwide. So you think he knows what he's talking about? The interesting thing, though, is that he tells a story in the book that even though he was a very successful business person in his 30s, he was not an investor. He just wasn't. And he tells a story about him and his wife. They used to vacation at a particular place every year, and they got to know the values because they're both agents. And anyway, he tells a story. Him and his wife are riding the elevator in this building, and come to find out the person in the elevator with them was a real estate agent. So just in a conversation, they're like, hey, you know of any good deals? And the agent was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, in this very building, there's a property that's just came for sale. It's $100,000 under value. And they're like, wow, really? That's great. And they just chat a little bit more, didn't think much more of it. But then over the next week, they started talking about it, and they got home, and they're like, we should make an offer on that property. So he calls up the real estate agent and says, hey, we've been thinking about it, talking about we want to make an offer on that property. And she started laughing. She's like, I told you that was a great deal. That sold the same day.
Wow.
And he's kicking himself, right? He tells his wife, he's like, oh, honey, I think I just lost this $100,000. So, but fortunately, he learned from his mistake, right? And the next deal, he made $500,000. And that was kind of the genesis of this book. So, and the importance of being prepared to act quickly when an opportunity does come your way. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about removing some of the mental stumbling blocks, limiting beliefs, myths, misunderstandings that are standing between you and being a millionaire real estate investor yourself, and talk about the possibilities, the vision for your life, power of leverage, why real estate, growing your net worth, and then you're going to need to know what, when, and how to buy, right? What are some of the strategies? So we're going to talk about that, and at the end, help you with a personalized plan for yourself that you can go out and do this yourself. So financial wealth. What is financial wealth? Unearned income to finance your life mission without having to work. Right? And don't we all want to be there? And Gary's got a really good saying that money is good for the good that it can do. A lot of people have different ideas about money, but you can use money for a lot of things in your life. You can be happy. People say, oh, I'm happy whether I have money or not, but that's great, but happiness doesn't pay the bills, right? All right, so what else? So Gary says there's 8 myth understandings between you and financial wealth. So the first one is, I don't need to be an investor. My job will take care of my financial wealth. Anybody in the room feel that way?
No.
No? Okay, you guys don't have that issue. Good. So the truth is that yes, you do need to be an investor. Your job is not your financial wealth, because jobs are subject to what? Job loss and inflation, right? Okay. I don't need or want to be financially wealthy. I'm happy with what I have. Anybody feel that way? I just mentioned that one. There you go. Truth is, you really need to be financially wealthy, and as I mentioned, money's good for the good that can do. Another myth: it doesn't matter if I want it or need it, I just can't do it. Anybody feel that way? Well, you guys have got it going together. You got it all. You? Sometimes you feel that way? Okay, all right, that's good. Being truthful, awesome. So the truth is that, I'm sorry. The truth is you can't predict what you can or can't do until you try. And the truth is, a lot of other people, just like everybody in this room, hey, Pastor. Everybody, have a seat. Have a seat. You want water or anything? Would you like a water? So the truth is that anybody can do it, and in fact, in the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which I have over there, copies for you guys, our free gift to you at the end. There is 20. They interviewed 120 actual real estate investors for this book. 21 of their stories are listed in the back, and they come from all walks of life. So it goes to show that anybody can do it if you really want to. So there's 5 investing myths that Gary talks about. People think investing is complicated. Anybody feel that way? Yeah? Okay, good. So the truth is, investing is only as complicated as you make it. So our goal here is to help simplify it and give you the proven models and systems that you can plug into so that it's simple and easy for you. So another myth: the best investments require knowledge that most people don't have. Anybody feel that way? Okay. So the truth is, your best investments are always in areas that you can or already understand. Can I get a show of hands of anybody in the room that lives in residential real estate? Some sort of property, a home, right? Right? Everybody lives in a home, right? So you guys can all understand the need for a home. You can understand residential real estate. Maybe not everybody can understand hotels. Maybe Pastor Steve can, but the rest of us cannot understand that. Wrap our head around a hotel, or owning a hotel or apartment complex, or some industrial or office buildings. But we can wrap our head around real estate, or residential rather, right? Okay. So another myth: investing is risky. I'll lose my money. Anybody feel that way? Right? And that's smart that you feel that way. But the truth is, following proven systems greatly reduces your risk. And in fact, not investing is risky. Without investing, you're risking job loss, inflation, and the headlines are full of what these days? Inflation, right? You go to the gas pumps, what do you see? Inflation, right? So we know that that's a risk. Okay, so myth: successful investors are able to time the market. Anybody feel that way?
Yeah,
Yeah?
successful investors are able to.
Time the market?
Maybe not, no.
Maybe not?
I don't know how smart they are.
Okay, no, it's good. That's a lot of people feel that way. But the truth is, in successful investing, the timing finds you, as long as you know what your criteria is. Like I gave like Gary Keller gives his example in the book about not being prepared. He didn't know what his criteria, he wasn't ready to pull the trigger when the opportunity came, right? So later he figured out what his criteria is. Now it's simple for him, right? It either matches his criteria or doesn't. So he knows whether to pass or to play, right? And it's not about timing in the market, it's time in the market. I know there's a lot of, most everybody in here is a homeowner, and you know that just, Jane, you just bought your home, a couple years ago? And has it appreciated, right? It just, living in your home, right? You've probably gained, I don't know, what, 200,000, something like that?
Almost 300.
Almost 3? Wow, see? So it's powerful. Real estate's powerful. Okay. So myth: all the good investments are taken. Anybody feel that way? So the truth is every market has its share of good investments. Market goes up, market goes down. Even in today's market, there's great deals out there even today. Even right this minute, there's good deals out there if you know what to look for. So possibilities. So we're going to start with talking about what's the possibilities to get the mind, talk about the millionaire mindset first of all, right? So what is your big why? Why is it important to you to be financially wealthy? What could it do for you? Well, some people it might be safe for retirement. Maybe it's retire early, save for your college for children, give to your children. Anybody have aging parents? Right? That costs money to take care of your aging parents, right? Vacations, travel, cars. Anybody want a bigger house? A lot of people during COVID now, we realize that, hey, you know, this house, we're working from home, this house we're living in is just too small. We need something bigger, right? Give to your church or charity, right? So when you consider what's important to you and your big why, what's going to motivate you, it's important that you dig deep and really, you know, ask why is that important to you and what's that going to do for you and how's that going to make you feel. So how do we get there? So big goals. So our big why is like the fuel in the fuel tank. The big goals, big models is kind of our roadmap. Big goals is, you know, our destination, so to speak. And then big habits, that's the things that we do consistently every day that's going to get us down the road to our destination, right? Power of leverage. So that's the thing about real estate that differentiates it from most other investments is leverage, financial leverage. So that's a critical piece when it comes to talking about real estate investing as opposed to other investments. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. So real estate has some unique qualities in contrast to other investments such as stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. First of all, everybody needs it, right? Didn't we agree earlier? Everybody needs a house to live in, right? The value never goes to zero. It's always worth something. Purchasing real property can be leveraged. You invest relatively little amount of money, and then you find a lender like Anna over there that's going to lend you a whole lot of money for the rest of it, right? And then you benefit from the entire value of both your investment and the lender's investment. And if you have a renter, if you're holding the property long term, you have a renter, that person's contributing to your equity, which does what? Increases your net worth, right? Gary likes to say that real estate is a most able investment. In other words, it's accessible, it's appreciable, rentable, improvable, deductible, depreciable, deferrable, stable, and livable. Okay, so this graph compares real estate as opposed to some other investments that might be out there, stocks, mutual funds, money market. So to keep the math easy, I used a figure of $1 million. So if you wanted to invest $1 million in stocks, it's going to cost you $1 million. Mutual funds, same thing. Money market, same thing. But in property, you don't have to fund the whole thing yourself, right? Obviously, you just put a down payment. So in this case, investment property, 20%, $200,000 is our example. Investments have carrying costs, right? So stocks 1 to 4%, and then investment property, you've got a mortgage, of course, but it's offset by your renters. It may be vacant for a little while. You may have to put some maintenance in it. So we consider 10% vacancy and maintenance rate, income per year. Now, last year, I think the appreciation rates in the Bay Area were somewhere over 20%. It was huge, incredibly unusual. The year before that, it was also very high, highly unusual. The typical is usually, I think, around 5 to 10% is normal appreciation for real estate. It does fluctuate. You know, some years are great, some years are not so great, but in most years, it tends to appreciate over time. Other income, obviously you get rent from your investment property, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You might get dividends, but you don't get rent, right? Just return on investment. If you consider the fact that you're only putting $200,000 and you're controlling a $1 million investment, it's a 25% return. Now there is a potential loss. Now stocks, mutual funds, you know, if you lose, it's 100% risk of loss, right, on your $1 million. Now there is a potential risk of loss in real estate, but that's only if you have to sell in a down market. If you don't have to sell, what do? You continue to hold it and rent it out until the market changes, right? So it's very, as far as risk go, it's very, it's much lower on the risk, much higher on the return as opposed to other investments. I'm not going to, this slide kind of explains what we just talked about on the other one. I'm not going to get in the nitty gritty for the sake of time, but if you look at the bottom paragraph, to make the same money in a mutual fund yielding 10% with no cost, you'd have to have a $2.5 million in cash to make that same 25% return. So let me ask you, which is easier, to raise $2.5 million or $200,000, right? So this graph or picture, I guess, shows the power of leverage. On the top, the blue portion up on top, that shows an investor's financial picture, and the black portion on the bottom shows a consumer's financial picture. So you can see that the investor's financial picture is very, very different. Their foundation is capital and cash flow, and consumption is just a little bit of their financial picture, right? And their financial wealth is built on capital and cash flow. They got money working for them, whereas the consumer on the bottom, they're working for money. Most of their income is going towards consumption, and very little is left over for capital and cash flow. I heard there's a saying in Texas, big hat, no cattle. You heard that? My wife's from Texas. I thought she might have heard that. Anyway, it's like it's saying that this person's like a fake or a poser, right? They got the big hat, but they don't have any cattle. They don't really have a big ranch, right? Anyway, so Gary goes on to say that shadow wealth is built on consumption and cash. So the power of leverage. So when you buy an investment property, right, you've got market value, equity, investment, and debt, but then over time, the market value typically goes up, right, which increases your equity position. Your investment remains the same, the down payment that you've got in the property, but your debt goes down. And why? Because you're paying it down, or ideally somebody else is paying it down for you, right, a renter. So again, over time, your market value goes up, your equity is increasing, your debt's decreasing, and eventually it's going to be all equity. You still might have your down payment in it, but it's paid off, and what's that going to do to your cash flow and your net income, or your net worth rather? And who paid it off for you?
Renters.
Right, that's right. Okay, so cash flow growth. Now we know that we talked about, the value of the prices of homes tends to increase, called appreciation over time, right? What about rents? Don't rents also appreciate? Don't they also increase over time? We're seeing that now, right? So if you have an investment property over a period of 5, 10, 20, 30 years that you own it, isn't it conceivable that you're probably going to have to raise the rents during some of those times, right? What's that going to do for your cash flow? It increases, right? So you're earning more rents, your debt service and your vacancy and expenses remains the same, but your cash flow increases because now you're earning higher rent. Okay, until eventually you pay it off and it becomes yours. So what are some reasons why people invest in real estate? Return on investment, less out of pocket, more into pocket, tax write-offs, growing net worth through equity, retirement, college education savings, and many, many more reasons, right? So tax write-offs. First of all, I'm not a tax advisor, so I advise you to consult your tax advisor for more details on this, but real estate does give you some tax advantages, right? Typically it's going to be, and it's different if it's your primary residence versus an investment. So that much I do know. But some of the things you might be able to write off in your taxes: operating expenses, mortgage interest, financing costs, fees connected with a 10-year loan, depreciation, capital improvements, personal property, maintenance expenses. So as I mentioned earlier, in writing the book, they interviewed 120 actual millionaire real estate investors rather. 21 are highlighted in the back of the book. It's a good inspiration for yourself to see what's possible. And a lot of them had no real estate investing experience when they began. On page 322 of the MREI, it talks about investor 34. He wanted to remain anonymous, so he didn't have his picture and details about himself in the book, but Gary and his researchers felt it was such a compelling story. He talks about it kind of in general terms, but this guy, he started out by purchasing shares of limited partnerships at a discount. So a lot of real estate's bought with limited bigger piece of real estate bought with limited partnerships, right? And some people were willing to, he would just send out these letters every month, and he'd get maybe a 5% response rate, and he'd offer to buy out their shares of the limited partnership at a discount. So anyway, he did that for a long time, and then he started investing that money and buying his own pieces of real estate and whatnot. Anyway, long story short, now he's receiving $1 million per month. Think about that. What is that? That's $12 million a year, right? That's a lot of money. So, so you can, what can you invest in? You can invest in a single family home, condominium, or multifamily. I mean, you can invest in hotels and apartments too, but these are the things that most investors start with because it's what you know, right? You can understand, wrap your head around a piece of residential real estate. And I didn't make the slides, for some reason triplex didn't get in there, but there is such a thing as a 3-unit triplex. So condominium, you know, the benefits, obviously, the price point's lower, maintenance is included, there's amenities, but on the flip side, on the downside, there's high HOA fees, less cash flow, you only own a small percentage of the land, and typically they appreciate less than a single family home would. Single family home, they're easier to resell, are typically surrounded by owner occupants, they appreciate more. On the downside, there's only 1 unit to generate income, so if you don't have a renter in there, it's 100% loss until you can get another renter in there, right? Duplex, so we can see typically close to single family neighborhoods, lower appreciation, they're usually surrounded by many other rental units. So currently, I looked up, before we started today, I looked up some statistics for our area and what's available as far as these types of properties. And I have it in here, maybe I can remember it. If I remember correctly, I think it was Fremont had a duplex on the market right now for $1.5 million, if I remember correctly. Newark has one duplex at 1.2 and a triplex at 1.5. Hayward's got some multifamily properties, but as you go up further north, like into Oakland, there's a lot of multifamily properties up there, duplex, triplex, fourplex, so that's where the bulk of those types of properties are. On the market today, the lowest price one I saw today was $420,000 up in Oakland for a duplex. And
Yeah, where? 420,000.
yeah, probably not the best part of Oakland. It
That's
probably
what I'm thinking.
probably has some deferred maintenance, but there may be an opportunity. But that may or may not be an opportunity for you. So you and what I'm going to talk about here soon is for each one of you. Each one of you has your own criteria on what's a good investment for you, right? So one person in this room, that might be their thing, you know? I know somebody in the back of the room that might be their thing, but but for somebody else, that might not be their thing, right? And most investors, they feel most comfortable investing where they know, typically within a 20-mile radius of their primary residence. And it's very important to invest with what you know. Warren Buffett's a great example of that. He famously during the dot-com era, right? People were asking him, hey, Warren, how come you're not investing in all these dot-coms? He said, because I don't understand the business model. And he turned out to be, after the dot-com bust, he turned out to be very wise in that, right? So he only invests in things that he understands, right? And he's, one of the world's wealthiest investors in the world, right? So anyway, it's highly advisable that you invest in an area that you understand, you're comfortable with, and an area that you're familiar with. But anyway, I just wanted to bring some of those statistics to light because a lot of people want to know about multifamily. And again, there are multifamily in the Fremont area. There's a few, but there's probably more available as you go north towards Oakland and Berkeley and Alameda. And also in this area down in Fremont, they're typically going to be well over $1 million. But up in Oakland and Berkeley in that area, you can find them for less than $1 million. Okay.
So they are as much as a single family home? Sometimes?
It depends. It depends. There's a lot of variation because it depends on the size and the condition, and but you can find them as much for, same price or less even, but it's probably going to be in a worse neighborhood. Conditions probably not going to be as good. Okay, and then some people might be comfortable buying a single family and renting out some of the rooms. Now that's not for everybody, but some people are comfortable and can do that, but somebody else might feel very uncomfortable doing that, right? So it's very important for you personally to have a personal plan and know what your criteria is so that you can focus on that, right? Okay, fourplex, again, it's just kind of more of the same. So the proven systems, let me refer to my notes here. So these models are more fully developed in the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. Okay, so the first stage is learning your particular market. Actually, I just talked about that. So find opportunity. Where do you find opportunity? You can find opportunity through your network, your family, friends, coworkers, your favorite realtor, me, right? I'm happy to help you find properties and evaluate them most importantly, and make sure it fits your particular investment criteria. And then once you find the property that fits your criteria, then what do? You make a deal, right? Examine the home, see if it fits, make an offer to purchase. Now, kind of a bit of note of caution, it can be, it's very easy to get emotional about it, get excited or nervous. So you really need, somebody kind of guiding you. Part of my job description, I think, is to help people evaluate things, from a logical and perspective when things get kind of emotional. So I'm happy to do that. Be your accountability partner to bring some clarity and objectivity. And yeah, so these proven models, the models are more detailed in the MREI book, so be sure to read that carefully. What next? So if you do decide to hold a property long term, you can either manage it yourself or you can hire a property manager to do it for you. There's pros and cons of each, of course, and so the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, there's actually part of a series. There's actually 3 books in the series. The other books are Flip and Hold, and obviously Flip is more specific for properties that you want to turn over quickly and for short-term profit, whereas Hold is the long-term strategy where you hold and rent out the property, right? But just want to let you know that there are other books. In fact, here's Flip and Hold. Okay, so we got Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you got Flip and Hold. And the beauty of it is that these were written by people that are actually doing it, like experts in the field, and have done their research on people that are highly successful in this. Okay. All right, so what is the best strategy for you? Well, it depends. Depends on the current market conditions. And I'm going to go over a lot of strategies here in just a minute, but not all strategies work in all markets. So it kind of depends on the market, first of all. Second of all, it depends on you, your personal situation, your personal goals, your personal comfort level, and your personal plan. So here's some strategies. I'm going to go through them rather quickly for the sake of time. You don't need to write them down or anything like that. I'm planning to do some more in-depth trainings on this sort of thing, which I'm going to talk about at the end. So right now I just want to make you aware of some of these strategies and let you know that I am going to offer some deep dive training into these in the near future. Okay? So some of the strategies, first of all, you need to decide, is this going to be your primary residence or your investment, or both? Are you going to flip it or are you going to hold it? Now you can wholesale it, which means you put a property under contract, then you sell that contract to another investor. You never have to get a loan and you don't have to take possession of the property. Kind of cool. If you're buying a primary residence, you can get a no money down loan if you're a veteran. And if you're not a veteran, if you want to buy a property with an existing VA loan, you might be able to assume it. I think, can you still assume them? Yeah. The U.S. Department of Agriculture also offers no money down loans. There's a program called Cal HFA, which offers down payment assistance programs. Also a silent second, which means payments are deferred until the property is sold, so you don't have to make a payment on that silent second until the property sells. If you don't have 20% down, the FHA, you can buy a house 3.5% down. If you're not a veteran, you don't have 20% down, you put 3.5% down, right? So what are some other ways you can find money for down payment? Gift funds from family, retirement plan or 401k. Typically, there's a prepayment, or there's a penalty rather, for early withdrawal. There is an exception if you use the property for a down payment on your primary residence. There's no penalty on that. If you currently own a home, you can tap into the equity to use that equity to buy other homes, to buy investment properties. Home equity line of credit's a great way to do that, or cash out refinance. You can crowdfund through your local real estate investing group, which is also known as syndication or private lending. So where can you find a real estate investing group? Look around, right? You guys can pool your resources, right? If you really wanted to, right? There's a great investment and you really wanted to, and you trust the other people, you can do that. I actually have done that myself in the past, so I know that it works. You can do a reverse mortgage purchase. You have to be 62 years old, but if you qualify, you can buy a home with no money down, and your house will pay you every month. You don't have to pay a mortgage. No money down, your house pays you. That's a pretty cool idea, huh? So how can you, and what about a lower interest rate? Everybody knows interest rates are going up, right? How can you get a lower interest rate? Well, a couple ways. You can get an adjustable rate loan, or you might be able to get the seller to give you a credit at closing to pay down your interest rate. So what are some other ways you can buy investment properties? You can get a hard money loan. Those are typically going to be very high interest rates, and the terms are kind of not so pleasant, but they're designed for a purpose. They're designed for flips, or if you're going to refinance the property in 12 months, then they might make sense. You can use a self-directed individual retirement account to invest in properties. You can invest in tax liens. You can buy properties that are in defaults on their payments heading towards foreclosure. The homeowner might be willing to sell the property to you at a good price because they don't want to lose it to foreclosure. You can buy subject to the existing financing. Now that's where you take over the payments for the seller. You don't have to have any money down, no credit qualification. It's great for the investor, but it's not so good for the homeowner because they're still on the hook for paying their loan, right? But in some cases, if they're in a really tight situation, they might be willing to do it. And the market's starting to change right now. And so we are going to see some of these things wouldn't work last month, right? Because let me take just a minute to talk about the current state of the market. So we've been in a very hot seller's market for the last, I don't know how many years, over 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. It's kind of due for a correction. When COVID hit, everybody thought that the market was going to drop, and it did the exact opposite. And a big part of that is supply and demand, and we still have those factors in place. We still have high demand, although that's kind of curbing, and we still have relatively low inventory or supply. So those factors are keeping home prices pretty stable and high, and we've got Bay Area's a great place to live, a lot of high earners in this area, so those are keeping prices high. Anyway, but there has been a noticeable shift in the market, particularly because interest rates are going up and are scheduled to go up more before the end of the year. So, there's talk now about economic downturn, and things like that. So some of these things that may not have worked in the last couple of years, like most sellers in the last couple of years, you'd be very hard pressed to find somebody willing to sell their home subject to, but that may be an opportunity coming up as the market changes. Notice a default, same thing. It's just too easy for them to sell their house quickly for a lot of money. It has been the last couple of years, but now that the market's starting to change, there's going to be more opportunity for that sort of thing. So anyway, lease options. And lease options is another one. last month, that probably wouldn't have worked so well, but lease options now might be a thing. A seller might be willing to do a lease option for you, which basically works like go to the seller and say, hey, I want to rent your home, but I want the option to buy it. So why would a seller do that? So they might be willing to do it if you're willing to pay a little bit more in rent and have some of that rent go towards your down payment. Now, why would you do that? Well, because you don't have the credit or the down payment, right? So it's kind of a win-win situation for both. Now, that probably wouldn't happen a month ago because a seller would be like, I got 10 other people waiting to buy my house for cash, right? So why would I make that deal with you? But now that the market's changing, they might be willing to make that deal with you. Foreclosures. So that's another one. We haven't seen a lot of foreclosures lately because people can sell their house so easily, so quickly. But now that the market's changing, we're probably going to start seeing more and more foreclosures on the market. Foreclosures, they usually require all cash, not always, but usually in most cases. And usually you're not allowed to inspect the property before you buy it. So foreclosures can be risky, and it may not be the right strategy for everybody. It is a strategy, and it could work for some people. But just make sure that you're aware of the risk and the rewards, right? Short sale. So what is a short sale? Short sale means that the seller's selling short of what they owe the bank. It's not short in terms of time. Some people get that confused. Seller financing. Seller might be willing to finance to minimize their capital gains tax. Limited partnerships. A lot of real estate, especially bigger real estate, is bought through limited partnerships. You might be able to create your own or buy other people's shares. Expired listings. Sometimes people put their home on the market and it doesn't sell, but they still want to sell, but they're kind of waiting for the right time or the right buyer to come along. And maybe now they're more realistic and maybe a little bit more desperate too. For sale by owner, a lot of times the owner is not so sophisticated. Sometimes you might be able to get a good deal there. And then bargain hunting. It is possible to get a deal in any market. Some deals are listed publicly on the MLS and some are not. Some it's by word of mouth. You may know somebody that they haven't listed their home yet, but they're thinking about selling, they want to sell, they have a situation where they have to sell, right? For example, what if somebody has a job offer all of a sudden they have to move across country and they have to sell their house quickly. Death, divorce, these are some of the reasons why people might have to sell quickly, and it might be a potential for a good deal for a real estate investor if you're prepared to take advantage of that. So you got to be prepared to act quickly before the buyers. So financing. If you're going to finance a property, there's a multitude of different ways to finance a property. 30-year, 15-year, fixed adjustable, 20% down, qualifying, primary investment, first property, next property. So that brings me to our finance specialist, Anna Rotolo. She's with Finance of America. She is a mortgage broker, and she's going to talk to you about this stuff.
Yes,
There's a clicker.
and a lot more. So, hello everyone. Excuse me. So actually, what's the date today? Today's the 9th. 1 week from today, I am celebrating my 39th year in the mortgage industry. I started right out of high school. I worked my way through San Jose State. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. By the time I graduated, I decided I loved this real estate thing. I was doing mortgage loans, so to this day I still am. So I strongly believe in real estate. I have a very strong why, and that's what keeps me very anchored to this business and always in alignment with how I want to help people in getting into real estate and expanding their real estate. So does everyone in here own a property? Okay, so no. So I have some people that own no properties. So the ones that do own a property, do you own a rental property yet? No. Okay. So everyone here either owns their primary residence or nothing, and then no one owns a rental property. Okay. That just helps me understand sort of what we want to go through. So I had brought products about rental property loans, bridge loans, fix and flip. If you guys would like, I would like to have more of a discussion than a presentation with you, because I think you'll get a lot more value on it. So if we're talking a rental property, we're gonna just talk traditional financing right now, okay? generally, and I'm gonna say generally, okay, I'm gonna give you the general guidelines, because then we have everything. You want it, boy, I had a typo right there, maximum loan, okay, so, it's like, can you just see it? Okay, usually the investor wants you to come in with 20% down when you're buying a rental property, okay? That's the usual rule, 20% down. If you put 25% down, it gets you even better financing. But 20% down is around the minimum where they wanna see you come in with, down payment. The property has to be in rent-ready condition. What that means is the traditional lenders are not going to let you go buy something that's just destroyed and finance 80% of it, and, you know, with you promising you're gonna fix it up to rent it out, right? You have to fully qualify. But what happens when you buy a rental, the beautiful thing is, we will use 75% of the rent, the potential rent on the property, and offset the payment with that 75% of the rent. So let me just give you I'll just sort of give you some quick figures. Let's say you were gonna rent it out it could rent out for $2,000, right? 75% of that is $1,500. So $1,500 is going to offset the payment. So you would qualify with your current home and then whatever the payment is less the $1,500. So you get a little bit of a break when you're qualifying for a rental property, because they will let you count that rental income. The only time they won't let you count that rental income, and so this is to you that don't own a home currently, is if you haven't been paying rent. So if you haven't been paying rent for the last 2 years, they don't allow you to go buy a rental and use that income to qualify. You have to qualify for the house on your own. So, and it's just because they feel you don't have proven history of making a payment yet, right? So that's the only caveat there, but otherwise you do get to have that income credit you, so it helps you qualify for more homes or a bigger home, depending on really what you want to achieve. When I say non-QM financing, that is mortgage lingo, and I apologize for that. QM is qualitative mortgage. It's what we have to pass with the government. So when we talk about non-QM financing, there's ways for me to finance you where if you put 20% down, I don't need to see your income. As long as I know that it's your money, you come in with the 20% down, you have good credit, you know, so 700 or above, the higher your credit, the better the terms will be. So of course, every time we get a little bit riskier in it, the rate changes a little bit, but sometimes it might be the right strategy for a reason, you know, or for a point in time, right? The other one we have is use rent to oh my God, another typo. William, oh my God, I'm killing myself. Okay, you guys can tell I do mortgages and not PowerPoints. to quality versus income, to qualify versus income. So we actually have loan programs now. They're called DSCR. And what that means is that they'll take the rent. So for that example I used of $2,000 a month rent, right? Which would be low in this market, but in other markets it might be high, right? If that $2,000 is equal to what your payment would be on the property, you don't need to qualify at all. They don't want any paperwork from you as far as you're qualifying, because they're saying you're gonna buy a property that's gonna basically pay the mortgage, so you're good. So some companies, the most aggressive company I have, if the rent will pay 75% of the mortgage, they'll also do a DSCR. So you have different levels. Usually it's 1-for-1, but that's another type of financing. So this is called traditional rental financing, right? Questions around that? Do you want to pick my brains on this?
On the DSCR, you still need the 20% down.
Yes. Yes.
But no paperwork, so to speak.
Less paperwork, yeah. It's just gonna be based on your credit, on the potential rental income, which we get a rent survey. That's how we determine the rent. And then it's gonna be on your assets. So the income qualifying is gonna be easier. So if you qualify for a mortgage, if you have good income and you can qualify for a mortgage, a traditional mortgage is going to be your least expensive way of getting into a home. You're gonna get the best terms, the lower closing costs, everything like that, okay? So that's always going to be your best bet as far as doing it. But sometimes you might then wanna get really aggressive in doing some stuff, or you might just get tired of providing all of your tax returns all the time. So you might just say, let's just do this mortgage or that mortgage, you know what I mean, for whatever reasons you might have. Other questions around this?
So, one time I had a friend who bought a business,
Mm-hmm.
and for the down payment, he got an SBA loan. So he did some creative financing by asking the seller to provide the down payment for him. Right, so then he had a, side loan on that.
Yeah,
So if that was the case, and we could bring 20% in another way,
mm-hmm.
right, would that still qualify?
Generally, no. They're gonna wanna see where the source of funds came from. So, we would have to get even more creative in that sense. So that's where we might then start talking to hard money lenders or stuff like that, so.
So if I get a 20% from hard money, and I show that I got 20% from hard money, they're still gonna run the numbers, right?
You can't, get a loan for the down payment.
Right, because the money's coming from hard money.
Correct, yeah. Now, there is a way of, if I'm giving you a few secrets, what we do is we source money for 2 months.
No, I see.
So if you got the money 3 months ago,
Right.
and I have 2 months bank statements and I don't
Oh, I
see
see.
that you got that loan 3 months ago,
Okay.
then it is considered your own money.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes,
Less
it
than,
makes
less
sense.
than 3 months ago?
Excuse me?
Less than 3 months ago.
You have to have it, gotten it 3 months ago because we need 2 months of bank statements.
Oh, the last 2 months of,
Yes,
so if you picked it up 3 months ago,
then it wouldn't show on 2 months
you
of
wouldn't
bank
even see it, because you're
statements,
only
yeah.
looking at the last 2 months.
Yeah, but generally, just so you know, also, there are questions though that you're answering on the application that
Right.
says, are the funds borrowed, do you have another loan? So you have to be really careful and watch yourself, because you don't wanna commit fraud on a file or anything, so. But there will be loans available to you, they're just gonna change the dimensions of it and the way that you get it, right? So it might be maybe that person that has the 20% down, maybe we bring them in as a cosigner with you,
If,
and then we deed them off after. That's a totally legal way of doing it.
or if we receive it as a gift, it's fine, right?
So, some lenders, when they're doing rental properties, will not allow gift funds. Other lenders will, so that's just where we have to find the right lender that will allow the gift funds.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, there's a lot of variables among all the investors. I wish I had a clean answer all the time, but we don't anymore, so. Other questions around this?
You said, under traditional financing, I think it was if it, for example, qualifies 75% from the rental,
Yeah,
that your primary rental or home, you say something doesn't count or count?
no, so what happens, am I able to draw on this real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Let me, and then I was just thinking I should walk you through this equation. Make sure this isn't a permanent marker. No, this is dry erase, good, because that would be terrible, wouldn't it? Okay, so what we do, if we're qualifying you traditionally, your current house, right, so current home, and let's just say this is, your total payment with taxes, insurance, property taxes, if we break it into monthly, your home insurance and your, mortgage, let's say it's $3,500 per month, okay? I'm gonna use just round figures for now. So that's your current home, right? And let's say your monthly debt, and monthly debt is car loans, car leases, minimum payments on credit cards, student loans. It's not things like your car insurance or your medical insurance. So it's just your debt, right? What shows up on your credit report. Let's say that's $500 a month, right? So you have $4,000. And we divide this by your gross income. So let's say your gross income, I'm just gonna use it, simple figure so I could do easy math, it's $12,000 per month. It means this is 30% of your gross income,
Right.
okay? That's a good figure, that's a nice low figure. This can go up to about 40%. 40% is really around our target. So if you're going to buy an investment property, what we're going to do we're going to figure out the payment, right? Payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance on the rental property, right? Can I use easy math again? Let's say this comes out to $3,000 a month. Okay? And I said we're gonna rent it out for $2,000 a month. And we said, so $2,000 rent times 75% equals 1,500. We reduce this by 1,500 because it credits that. So you're left with 1,500. We add that to the 4,000. So that's 5,500. Divide that by the 12,000. And what's that equal to someone? That's about,
About 50,
it's less than 50, right? But it's
Yeah.
about 40, maybe 45%?
yeah.
Somewhere like that, right? It's about 45% to 48%, something like that, right?
Yeah.
46? Thank you, 46%. So that's 46%. This ideally should be 45%, but I do have lenders that will go up to 50%, right? So that's the way that that benefits you. So I literally had one client recently that went out and bought 5 homes at the same time. And the reason that they bought 5 homes at the same time is because they had the cash, right? But they didn't necessarily have the strong enough income. But what they were doing by buying them all, they got the rent to offset the debt. And they were only, each property was only negative cash flowing about $300.
Oh.
So they were getting, only having to add $300 of debt to their qualifying, so it worked out perfectly for them. After you purchase a home, so after you buy this home, we then analyze your tax returns to determine the real cash flow of the property, right? But when you're buying it, there's an advantage in that we just take this 75%, so. Did that make sense, how we qualify on that? So that's traditional financing. And sorry, I just sort of.
But if you don't have
Chicken
you
scratch
said
that.
if there was no history on the current, then they don't qualify,
If you own a home,
right?
no, you qualify. If you don't own a home and you live with your parents or something like that, you don't even pay rent, then they won't let you do this part. You can still buy the property, but you have to qualify with the full payment.
But if you own a home and it's paid off,
That's great,
then
that's
better.
fine, yeah,
Can you use the equity to produce a 20% down?
absolutely. I do that a lot. That's the first thing we do. So I had one client that pulled $1 million out of their home. And then they went and bought 3 properties with that. So they used $300,000 approximately with closing costs on each property, and they went and bought 3 rental properties.
And then that'll fall in as a DSCR as well?
No, we did that traditional financing because they qualified, but now if they didn't qualify, then yes, I would look at DSCR first, because that would be the next best price, or I would then go into that stated income where I don't even look at your tax returns, and that would be, so each of them has a different interest rate. If we can go traditional, that's the first thing we're gonna look at.
That's a better financing?
Yes, yeah. But yes, pulling equity out of your home is one of the first things that we look at if people don't have the down payment, so. So bridge loans, so now I'm getting a little bit riskier, right, on types of ways of doing financing for rentals and stuff. So bridge loans, basically, they're gonna do, this is, these are almost considered commercial loans now, even though you're buying residential properties. Because you're buying investment properties only, not the home you're going to live in, and you have to certify that's an investment property, the investors are allowed to put it through their commercial division, so they don't have to meet all the government QM laws, okay? So that's why they can get a little bit more creative in the way that they finance it. So they'll do bridge loans up to 80% of the value of the purchase on the home. They'll do 75% refinances, 70% on multifamily. So why are bridge loans used generally? Yes?
I think you're about to answer the question about what a bridge loan is.
Oh, I'm sorry, bridge loans is temporary financing, and it's, so you're thinking traditional bridge loans, out of the home? Yeah, I wasn't talking, This is a different bridge loan than the traditional bridge loan, because there is a bridge loan that we do where you pull the equity out of your home to buy another home. People usually do that when they're going to sell their current home to buy another home. That's the traditional bridge loan. This is bridge loan for investment properties. So it's a little bit different. So this one is usually used, it's used only for buying investment homes. And it's usually gonna be done for a shorter term. You're gonna buy a home, you're gonna rehab a home, then you're gonna pay off that bridge loan. You're raising cash out of an investment you already own, and then you're gonna pay off other loans with it. So it's ideal for light rehab flips when the investor is self-funding cosmetic rehabs. None of you are in this category yet because you don't really own rental properties. So this is really, it wouldn't be right for you yet. But if you ever started, once you get your first flip, or once you wanna start doing your first flip, then this is when this might be something we would start discussing, right?
Do you have to own a home to do a flip?
Not necessarily, but the criteria is gonna become much more stringent because flipping is for experienced, is what they like. So they like experienced and inexperienced investors, but experienced gets the best terms and more financing. We can do everything from, we can set up a line of credit for someone that's experienced in flipping so that they could use the line of credit to pull from to fix the house up, and then when they sell it, they pay it back. So we have investors that consider a person that's done one flip experienced. Others say 3, you know what I mean? So each investor has different rules, but generally they'll say if you've done one flip, then you're considered experienced. Fix and flip loans are short-term loans. They're literally to help you, you're buying the home, you're fixing it up, and you're selling it. If you have that home longer than 12 to 18 months, you didn't do it right most of the time, right? Because then that should have been like a hold type loan versus, because you're paying a higher interest rate, you're setting up reserve funds, everything like that. So what they generally do is we have this equation we run where we say what's the purchase price, we'll finance X% of the purchase price, how much is it gonna cost to fix it, we'll finance like up to 100% of that, the cost to fix it. And then, you know, then we get an appraisal based on the future value, an appraisal on current value. So it's a little bit more intricate, but once you get one, it's easier to get them too.
Is that hard money?
It is not hard money, it's commercial money. So these are commercial lenders that literally they set up these lines for you to go ahead and just start buying, just doing fix and flips.
Which is cheaper, doing it this way or by line of credit? Which is better rate?
It's gonna depend on how many, so that's hard to answer for me because there's a lot of criteria that goes in there. So
But generally.
credit score, assets, you know, everything plays into that. So which will be cheaper between, that's my phone, sorry. And it's my son and he knows I'm here. Okay, so the fix and flip is going to be
Just rule of
probably less expensive because you're setting up more reserve funds, and they want to keep like 6 months of money in reserves, and so it ends up a little bit cheaper if you were doing a fix and flip line.
Does that require full qualify?
No, actually, depending, some investors, they don't want your tax returns, they're gonna base it only on your assets and your credit and your experience.
Your
So-
assets?
Assets. So it's on the lines, they like to see your assets, because, so this was originally put together for builders.
Right.
Builders in general have really bad credit.
Right.
And the reason is, it's not that they don't pay their bills, it's that they usually have huge charges and then they, you know, make payments. So just because of the way their credit's affected, because of what they're doing, so their score tends to drop a lot just because of the nature of their business. So this was originally put together for builders. So that's why it was based on assets and experience, so.
Is there a
But each
minimum-
of these is really individual to every
Is there a
person.
minimum on the assets, or that depends on the property they're looking at?
There is a minimum, and I could not tell you right off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Like 100,000 is what came out of my mind first, but I don't want to quote that. And what we usually do is on these, this is usually a phone call where we're consulting with the person and going through. We have a questionnaire that we ask that gets completed, and then that really gives us the idea of where we're at.
So if you have a possible borrower and they don't qualify all the assets, they can always team up with somebody who has assets, right?
Yeah, so co-signers are very normal.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of clients that will co-sign. You know, most people think of co-signers like obviously parents and children, right? Parents help their kids buy their first property, and that's great. But you can go in, if you find someone else that wants to buy a rental property, you guys could go in together and buy rental properties. One of my friends who owns a restaurant, he actually did that with his employees.
Mm.
So what he would do is he would provide the down payment, and they would be, you know, they would all go on the loan together, but he would do the down payment for them because it offered him stability with his employees, right? So, but that's the way he did it, right? I have other people, friends that have gone in just 50-50 on properties. Speaking about Oakland, like not my cup of tea either, but I had this guy who played football for Berkeley. I'm saying he's gonna kill me if I forget. Huge guy, right? He's a huge guy. He has no fear of buying the crappiest places in Oakland, and he's like, I gotta go collect my rent today, and I kid you not, he does bring a gun, and he goes and gets his rent, and I'm just like, oh shit, okay? That's not my cup of tea, you know what I mean? But some people are fine with that, and it's like, you know, so it just depends on what, and that's why I said it's really, what's your experience level, what's your risk level, what's your tolerance level, everything like that. Growing up, my parents bought their first house they bought was a duplex. And my parents came from Italy. I was born in the Bronx. My parents came from Italy with my brother and sister, and they bought their duplex. They actually, their real estate agent went in with them, so they didn't have the whole down payment. So they each chipped in some money to buy their first place. They bought a duplex. I still know where it is. I could drive by it. And then over time, they let that appreciate. They got the rent from that side, sold it, and then they went and bought a sixplex of all things. And we had to live in one of them, but that's the way, you know, they got started in real estate. So, you know, you can get started lots of different ways. It's just taking that first step. Did you have a question for me? I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering, when you say asset, does that also mean the appreciation value of your home, or does it has to have some other, like?
So they're looking at
assets?
net worth usually assets, so your liquid accounts, your stocks, your, you know, cash accounts, your 401ks, the equity in your home. So they're looking at like a net worth, yeah. What other questions can I answer?
Is it the end of your slides?
That's the end of my slides, yeah. If you want other presentations, I have a bunch. Like I can bring you through first-time home buying, credit repair, appraisals, what's an underwriter look for, red flags on a file, but
So like for most of us, or at least for me, like 20% is a barrier to entry. Like, so, you know, I guess I want the smart people to figure it out for me, because I gotta go run and work and earn the money, so I need the experts in finance.
so you don't own a home right now, right?
Right, and there's no way I could unless we come up with something clever. So my only idea I have, and this is my one question.
Huh?
My theory is buy a fourplex, live in one of them, do the other three renters count towards,
Yeah,
does that
fourplexes-
rental income count towards?
Yeah, fourplexes are very hard though, because
Then a
you have to
duplex,
debt service.
does the renter's income count towards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so I can give you a perfect solution right now. 3.5% down FHA duplex. No,
No, he's a veteran.
VA.
oh, you're a VA, oh my
Right,
gosh,
I wanna
okay,
pay
yeah.
zero down.
So no, but
I
on a
pay no more than
fourplex,
4K
VA
month.
still, you have to, they want debt servicing, so it creates some issues. But anyways, so what you need to do is you need to buy your first home with 100% financing VA. If you can get in, you get in. So, and then I'm gonna tell you to do what my kid did, because I forced my kid to do this too. I said, and then you fill up every room with roommates, and you have them pay your mortgage, so you could be stashing cash, and then you can go buy your next place.
But if But if he goes 100% loan, then, his income gotta cover the
Yeah,
payment, right?
it can't be done.
Correct.
It can't be done. I'm not gonna earn enough here to do that. That's looking
Unless he
at,
goes to Oakland.
and I'm
Well,
not going
there's
to
a-
Oakland,
there's a
right?
lot of
So
places.
like,
But
so you
what about
basically just told me,
Concord?
no,
Pleasant
right?
Hill,
We gotta
that's-
come up with something else. I'm not going to Concord, right? Like,
Okay,
We
well,
gotta
that's
come
where
up with
William
another-
helps out and says, like, I say what you qualify for, and William tells you where you can go. But we could do a FHA 3.5% down. You get a duplex, you get 75% of the other side credits you for qualifying. When you go into a fourplex on an FHA, they need debt service, so it doesn't work as well. But FHA, with the duplex works out beautifully. 3.5%, it can be all gift, they're fine with that. Or we start talking about Cal HFA,
no, so that actually
and
can
that's,
work.
you can go 105% financing.
3% gifted, that can work, right?
Yeah.
What can I do with my VA loan after that? My VA loan. Can after a certain period of time, I use my VA loan to move into a house and then just use that strictly as rental?
Yep,
How long would
absolutely.
that take? Do I have, as long, until like?
They
what the
say
numbers work?
technically, your intention is to live in the home for a year.
Okay.
That's what they say.
Can he
How about a
finance,
triplex? I'm sorry.
Yes,
can he finance seller costs with the FHA?
absolutely. Can the seller, wait, I'm
Or
sorry, can
the
the seller
closing
pay
costs.
closing costs? Absolutely.
No, or, no, if he doesn't have the closing costs and he only has.
The
a
seller
300%,
can credit him
Or-
closing
Or
costs.
can we finance these closing costs? No?
He can't
You
finance
would
them.
have to go to the seller then.
You could,
make
yeah,
the
you could
deal.
either have the seller pay them. There's ways of where we could, increase the interest rate to get some closing costs covered. There's a bunch of different variables.
Okay, so
But
it's-
we also have Cal HFA, which William mentioned. Cal HFA is for first-time home buyers. That allows us to go up to 105% financing. And so, and what that 5% for is for covering closing costs. So I've gotten people into homes for $2,200.
What does that do to the interest rate then?
Cal HFA is set by Cal HFA. That's the California Home Financing
Then what's
Agency.
their interest rate?
As of yesterday, because I just worked up a scenario for someone yesterday. So it depends on if your income is at the 80% of median AMI.
What is that?
80% of the area median income.
What is it?
So, it depends on, every area is different. So I have to literally,
Ballpark guess?
122, something like that.
Okay.
My person yesterday was making 92,000 and she was within 80% of AMI.
Okay.
She's buying in Concord though. So,
Yeah, so.
and so
yeah.
yesterday's rate, Cal HFA for 80% AMI with the equity builder, which gets you the up to 105% financing, it was a 5.375 on a 30-year fixed.
So what if,
She's gonna come out of pocket about $2,200.
what if,
See, that can work. I can do that.
or what if, you said 105% financing? What if somebody doesn't qualify on the income? Can we bring two families in on that single home?
Then we have to still all be under that income limit though, is where the thing comes in, the issue comes in.
You mean there's a cap on the income?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
If we're using that low income, yes, there is a cap on,
Okay, but if we
So-
do the FHA.
uh-huh,
we
then
can
there's
bring-
no cap, and
we
yes,
bring-
you can absolutely have,
We can bring two families saying they're gonna live in the house.
Yep.
To qualify.
yep, I have that happen a lot with brothers and sisters.
So we have church members that need.
I
to
have,
really-
yes, I have right now 2 sisters, they're both married and all 4 of them are buying
Okay.
together, all gonna live in a house together.
Okay.
How about a
That might work.
triplex?
A
Is it
triplex,
the same thing as a fourplex or a duplex?
it goes more to a fourplex than a duplex, yeah. So, but each of them has their different rules, so, yeah.
Where
Yes.
does the lawyer play in this?
I'm
Because
sorry?
Lawyers, because I know sometimes, things don't work out and the contracts, they signed it, but, they breached the contract. Where do lawyers, or how do we keep ourselves from getting realized that the other person pulled out? Or is it just,
So the contract has a lot of clauses for that. William, do you wanna take this as far as the contract clauses and how to protect everybody in it?
I think she's asking if you put two families in a house.
Oh, I'm so
Right.
sorry. I thought you meant the purchase contract.
no.
So, generally what, and I do have a couple of friends that are attorneys, and what I say is just drop an agreement. You can drop an agreement between and there's also ways of taking title that will protect you also. So you could take title as you know, Mr. and Mrs. X as 50% owners and Mr. and Mrs. Y as 50% owners. There's ways of taking title, but it's easy to go see a attorney who can draw up a simple agreement between you.
What if one family loses a job and they say they get behind on mortgage payment, how's the title still goes to the bank, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the more people you have involved, the higher the risk level would be, right? So, but that's even in marriage, right? If your spouse stops working and, you know, I mean, so it is what it is. But I mean, off the top of my head, you could set up some sort of side policy where it says, I'm gonna cover the mortgage, but you're gonna owe me. I mean, I don't know, so there's ways of doing that sort of stuff.
Because money is usually the problem and they end up fighting and.
Yeah.
Only if they don't have a job.
What else can I answer for you?
How quickly can you, so let's say I make that move, Cal, FHA, 105%, multiplex, the other families, I'm getting 75% or however many else, so let's just say it's a floor, right? So I'm getting 75% per each of those other three, right? So assuming those
And we're not
three are
doing a
filled,
fourplex in that one, a duplex.
you can't do a fourplex at the Cal FHA.
Not up to that maximum amount of financing.
What's the maximum?
But I don't know, I can look it all up for
If
you.
you had to
But
guess.
no, I don't do that as
Alright, so okay, let's just do this.
So why don't
Duplex,
you do this though,
Cal FHA,
if you
duplex.
email me,
okay,
I will get every answer for you. And I am very responsive, I promise you.
okay, so let's just say duplex, you can count 75% of what the other half
Correct,
can cover.
yes.
Okay, how quickly can you then leverage what you have in that home to get into the next one? In
Do
other-
you mean take cash out of it? You're not gonna have any cash to take out of it.
Yeah, that would take some time.
And as soon as on Cal HFA, as soon as you try to pull cash out, you have to then pay that silent second back. And if you do the forgivable second, they'll forgive 20% of the loan each year. At 5 years, you owe them nothing. So if you refinance it or sell it before that, then you owe them the money, so.
I guess maybe what I mean by leverage is basically it represents income when you go to qualify for your next.
So that would be, so that's where ideally.
But
it
you're
would
not
be-
taking money out, it just
Correct,
qualifies.
ideally it would be a year.
Okay.
Yeah, ideally it would be a year that they would want to see you. There's no, that's what the intent of the loan documents are. If you had a valid reason why you were moving out sooner, it would be allowed, but, they really get a little finicky if they see you, using this first-time home buyer program in there for a couple months and then bailing and going buying another house, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a year is really what they would like to see ideally.
One more
Yes,
question.
please.
My backyard is pretty big,
Great.
and my kids would like to build a tiny house,
Uh-huh.
right? So, for mom and dad, and then to rent the original house,
Uh-huh.
fix it up and rent it out.
My
How do
sister
I-
and brother-in-law just did that exact thing on their house, and they have a house in Concord, big lot,
Right,
so they just built a 2-bedroom ADU,
yeah.
in the backyard.
How do we finance that then?
That's generally gonna be through, I wanna see what your current mortgage is on your home. And we would see if it's worthwhile to just do a new first mortgage and pull the money out, or do an equity line, which is like, an equity line is sort of like a second mortgage, basically. That would be another way, cause if you have a really good first mortgage, we might not wanna touch that, we might wanna just do an equity line,
Mhm.
but that's where we would analyze that. There is ADU financing, but it's generally like a second mortgage and stuff, so it's not,
So you could do an ADU mortgage.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're thinking about that way, so
Yeah.
that eventually.
For my
the
sister and
renters-
brother-in-law, I did a whole new mortgage because it was worthwhile for them. It worked out better when I did the overall analysis. We just did one new mortgage. They needed $250,000 to build the ADU with everything, all the pipes and
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
So I just did $250,000 cash out, on their home, and that's then, they use that cash to go build everything.
Okay.
Whereas an equity line, you could just pull out as you need it, so that might be better, you know what I mean? It just depends on what you want to achieve.
But I'm just also wondering which one would have a lesser rate, because everything comes down to the rate.
Yep, and so like, right now, I would say an equity line's gonna have a lower rate, but if rates keep going up, it's gonna go up. So, and that's why I said we have to analyze your loan to see what works better for you.
What do you see interest rates in about a year?
In a year, I think we'll probably be somewhere around the same level or maybe a tiny bit lower.
Lower?
Yeah, because I think we're gonna see, some pressures in the market that are gonna bring rates back
Oh, I see.
down. Yeah.
Recession. Okay, so it's line up pretty much second mortgage.
So you do both residential and commercial loans?
Excuse me?
You do both commercial and residential loans?
So I don't do commercial, i.e. like office buildings, even though I do have, one person on my team does do that, but I don't personally. When we say commercial loans, it's such a misnomer. It's these loans that are for people that are out buying a bunch of investment properties. So, and the reason they call that is because of so that we're not QM.
What's good, man?
Qualitative mortgage, it's government, rules that we have to meet on our mortgages, so.
Thank you.
All right, William, back to you.
Okay.
If you think of any other questions, you have my card, text me, call me, email me, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I just got a few more things and we'll wrap up here and, on the, the staying in the property for a year and then leveraging it for another property, just the thing that came to mind was that, I'm not a tax expert, but I think if you stay in your primary residence for like 2 years, there's a capital gains exemption.
Absolutely.
So you might want to talk to your tax person.
And you know, I mean, that is so important for, does everyone know those capital gains rules? So key, I mean, so, yeah, you do need to talk to your accountant, so we're not speaking as accountants right now, but it's 250,000 per person. As a married couple, it's 500,000.
It's a big deal.
Basically, that you get
Free.
tax-free,
Yeah.
the equity in your home.
Assuming
So-
you're selling it.
Uh-huh.
You're
Yeah,
not selling it, you're just.
well, eventually you will.
Yeah, but my logic is just keep owning it, right? So like, my plan is live
You're
in a
a
house as long as I,
person. Yeah,
live in a
you're a
house as long as I
person.
need to live in it. Move to the next house, continue to rent that one.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
just like, just keep doing that. Like, I'm not looking to sell anything, so I'm not worried about capital gains until a very long time from now.
And so then where we need to get your mind at is your first home doesn't have to be your perfect home,
Right,
or
Yeah.
in the
there is certain
exact
criteria. it doesn't
area
get
that you
met.
want it to be. So
So,
you wanna go find a good rental community versus,
right.
yeah.
Okay, let me
Sorry.
wrap, that's okay, no, it's okay, I just wanted to mention that while I was on the top of my head.
Yeah, that was great,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
great that you mentioned that, we forgot about that.
Let me just wrap up here.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, thank you,
That was-
sorry, I forgot I had that slide.
So this is Anna's contact information. I think when you all registered for the class, we've got
Yes.
your email and whatnot. I'll send out a link. Also, we're recording, so I'll send out a link to the recording, our contact information and whatnot when we're done here. So I was thinking when I set this up, I was thinking, well, if this goes well, I came up with like 10 other topics that I could do a similar sort of workshop based on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, or Investor rather, book, Flip, Hold, and Buying Your First Home. So if you think you or people you know would be interested in that, I would be happy to put these on like more on like a monthly basis. But beyond that, I want to, wouldn't it be nice if you had like a coach or a mentor to help you through this sort of stuff, right? So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could offer some sort of free group coaching? So my idea was that to set up a private Facebook group called the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and I've set it up. I haven't prettied it up yet, but I've created it, and nobody took the name yet, which was weird. I'm surprised.
Wow.
Anyway.
I was thinking the same thing, you're gonna get that.
Yeah, so I've got a private Facebook group. You all are welcome to join. And what I want to do with that is have weekly online training so we can deep dive into some of those strategies that I talked about. Because obviously we didn't have time here to go deep into those. But to take one of those strategies and go deep into those, the MREI model, specific strategies, maybe have some guest speakers, tax specialists, renovation people, things like that. Do some case studies, bring actual investment opportunities to you guys this is what I found in the market, here's an actual opportunity if you're interested. Property tours, go look at some of these homes in person to actually see what they look like. Market updates, what's going on in the market, things like that. Would that be valuable to you guys? Does that sound like something that you might be interested in? Okay, good. And then one-on-one coaching, because it's, this is a very personal thing, right? Everybody's got a different situation. So my thought is I'd be happy to help you with that based on the proven MREI models that we have in the book. I give you some guidance, accountability, and I was thinking maybe do this on a bi-weekly basis on a video call sort of thing. So does anybody think that might be helpful? That'd be helpful for anybody?
We could do it on Zoom.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yep. Okay, so next step, so what's next? So I highly recommend that you read your book. As soon as we're done here, you all get a free copy of the book, courtesy of me and Anna. And I encourage you to join my Millionaire Real Estate Investor private Facebook group. Schedule a personal planning session with myself, schedule a financial checkup with Anna. Tell a friend, family member, neighbor, coworker, or better yet, tell us about your friend, because referrals help us grow our business. And the last thing I want to leave you with is just get in the game, right? Because you can't score if you're not in the game. You got to be in it to win it. And that's all I got. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you, Anna. We'd love to be your guides on this journey. Do you guys have any questions, last questions for us? Anything? Okay, thank you. And so that's us. I'm going to give you guys your books and give you your night back. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. What's the time?
Thank you, that was great.
It'd have to be like after.
So, can I ask you, you said there
Yeah.
are 3 other books, two other books will, right?
Hopefully,
No, that's fine.
and,
Flip and then whole, right?
Oh,
I
should
can
we-
do it. So,
Um,
I can do I'll ask for, because he has to finish.
What's the question?